Hey guys, my name is Dr. Rickie Keys with GetMyVABenefits.com. If you're stopping by the channel for the first time, if you just happen to, come up on this channel, I would really greatly appreciate if you like and share this video, but also that you turn on the notifications so that you'll be alerted to any video that I provide. This channel is specifically focused on ensuring that veterans, be they retired or disabled veterans, are able to get every benefit that they're entitled to. Recently there's been some uproar about veterans compensation. There was a recent attempt to try to limit or reduce the amount of benefits that veterans are entitled to, specifically related to PTSD or conditions that are either controlled by or mitigated by medication. And the veterans community came out in full force and ensured that that rule did not take effect. But we are also seeing large numbers or concerted efforts to reduce the benefits that we're entitled to. Now, if you're not entitled to benefits, this channel is not for you. So what I would encourage you to do is, if you are entitled to benefits, and if you are believing or feel that there are concerted efforts to limit your benefits, I would encourage you to, again, like this channel, follow this channel, turn on the post notifications to ensure that you get the most recent information, the most current information, the most up-to-date information possible. So with that said, I want to make sure that there is a conversation about the benefits that we're entitled to. The second point that I want to raise is that we need to reframe this conversation around benefits that veterans are entitled to. We need to move it from the compensation part to the occupational part. And what that means is, when a person is involved or works in a hazardous environment, typically, if they are hurt on their job due to the occupational hazard, they are able to get compensation or some kind of mitigation for the condition that they are facing. And usually this results in workman's compensation claim or claims. That's exactly what we as military veterans are entitled to. I went to Desert Storm. I served honorably. I did everything that I was required to do. The result of my service is there were burn pits, the PACT Act, there were munitions, spent munitions, uranium enriched munitions. We were given all kinds of cocktails to mitigate the chemical weaponry that they thought Saddam Hussein had and that he would fire into our forward post. Those conditions, in addition to the conditions, the environment that we faced, caused me to become ill as a result of the exposure and the actual things that I experienced. So this is an occupational hazard, and the result is we should be compensated for the occupation that we decided to perform. Just like any other worker, we should be able to get the benefits that we're entitled to mitigate the harm that we have realized or that we've incurred. So let's reframe the argument around compensation. Instead of talking about compensation, we should talk about occupational hazard. And the result is we should be compensated because of that occupational hazard, because we went to these forward bases, and because we suffered ill or exposure or harm as a result of our being on the front line. So That's the second point, and I think that's a critically important point. We need to reframe this conversation around veterans' compensation to occupational hazard and repairing ourselves as a result of these occupational hazards. The third point is what I want to talk to you about today. There was a recent news publication, and I'll play a part of it right here.
Now, NBC5 investigates. Veterans and psychologists say the VA is quietly limiting mental health care.
The VA denies this, but veterans and former VA psychologists tell a very different story to investigative reporter Bennett Haberle.
I actually staff sergeant, which is NCO, non-commissioned officer.
Medically retired in 2018.
I made it my first attempt.
Ashley Ouellette has a binder full of accolades from her time in the Air Force.
Yep, so I brought home a flag for each of my family members.
And a mind full of memories she can't forget.
Unfortunately, during my time in the military, I was sexually assaulted multiple times by people in power positions. And I really struggled with that.
Ashley says it was then she knew she needed help, and that therapy that she got through the local VA in Chicago was more than just an aid. It was a lifesaver.
If you could illustrate for me, where do you think you'd be without the therapy versus where you are now?
I wouldn't be here. Like, hands down, I would not be here today. Like, those services were beyond life-changing for me, and I know without these services, there will be a lot of loss of life with veterans.
When we met last fall, the Chesterton, Indiana native told me while her therapy had not been cut, that contacts at the VA told her she may need to advocate for herself and other vets. There was a chance that therapy could be limited as part of internal policy changes within the local VA.
It's quite clear that the changes they're making will have direct consequences for the care of our veterans.
Chris Mapps is a trustee with AFGE, the union that represents more than 800,000 federal employees, including VA psychologists.
There are, in fact, some recent policy and performance changes at the Jesse Brown VA Medical Center, specifically with our psychologists, that do seem to threaten that standard by arbitrarily limiting psychotherapy to 6 months of episodes of care.
AFGE shared with us internal communications among its members that show changes have been made to performance standards for psychologists, limiting episodes of therapy to as few as 24 sessions or 6 months of treatment. NBC5 Investigates found it's happening elsewhere. We spoke to VA psychologists and veterans in 2 other states.
What prompted your reason for retirement?
I was being told I had to limit the number of sessions that I had to see patients.
Dr. Stephen Long is a former VA psychologist in New York. He told us he left the Northport VA in part to protest the policy changes he said were limiting the amount of care he could provide.
The one reason that was primary at the time, I was being told, was to keep wait lists down.
Long and Gulf War veteran John Diaz are part of a group called Voices for Vets. Their online petition calling to end caps on veterans' mental health care has more than 28,000 signatures.
When they try to end it, they try to tell you to go to group therapy or something else, or medicate you. It doesn't, you're just putting a Band-Aid on it.
In a statement, a VA spokesman said in part that there is no VA directive or memorandum that mandates psychotherapy caps or session limits, and that the 6-month episodes of care allow for time to assess next steps, which could include a step down or new episodes of care. But John and his group say there is a disconnect between what the VA says and their own experiences, that it can take time for vets to open up and that there's internal pressure to move them along. A recent Inspector General report found that 79 of 139, or more than half of the VA facilities across the country, reported having a severe staffing shortage of psychologists. Veterans like Ashley say she worries for other veterans that putting bookends on therapy may delay or derail someone's healing.
I tried taking my own life multiple times, and therapy has had me not only confront some of my past traumas, but it's made me realize that life is worth living, and it's been so incredibly beneficial, and I'm terrified to see that go away.
The VA statement reiterated that there are no limits on mental health or other areas, but psychologists we spoke to say they're facing increasing internal pressure and the threat of discipline. if they extend therapy. Bennett Haberly, NBC5 investigates.
Thank you to Bennett. Thank you to Ashley for speaking up as well.
That's brilliant.
In Chicago, there was a veteran, and there are a number of veterans. This is not just one isolated case. There are a number of veterans who are starting to experience a lack of mental health services because there are limits to the number of services these veterans are able to get because of what they believe is the Veterans Administration reducing those numbers of benefits or those number of opportunities to see psychologists. They would rather medicate a veteran instead of psychologically, intensely having conversations to help that veteran get over or address, not get over, because you never get over these conditions, but address the conditions that they experience. This is an incredibly challenging situation, something that we need to elevate, something that we need to have meaningful conversations about. Now, veterans, we have to be fully aware of these conditions. We have to be cognizant of these conditions and these challenges that we face because of our service, because of the things that we encountered, because of the exposures that we had, we suffered from a number of conditions. PTSD is one of those conditions. And the result is we need to ensure, to fight, to make sure that we get the resources, these assistance that we need to address our condition. This lady is talking about suicides and the fact that she tried to, commit suicide on several different occasions, but it was a result of the psychological, the mental health services that she received, that she did not do that. And I'm so blessed and happy that she did not. But we need to continually fight to ensure that we are getting the benefits that we deserve, that we're entitled to as a result of our service, not because we claim something and it's not actually the case. So again, follow this channel because we're going to come on every day to talk about veterans news, information, things that we're seeing, things that you need to be aware of. But also go to getmyvabenefits.com where you will see a plethora of benefits, a plethora of things that you're entitled to. For example, if you're 100% disabled or any number of disability from 0 to 100%, and you have a certain number of dependents, we will be able to show you the benefits that you're entitled to. And this is absolutely free. Go to the calculator and you'll see this system at work. Subscribe to the channel, follow us, like us, share this video because veterans all over the country, all over the world, because I am in Panama, veterans all over the world need to understand that there are forces trying to reduce the amount of services that we get. But most importantly, there are resources that are available to ensure that we get the services, get the benefits, get all of the things that we're entitled to.